Well, good evening, everyone. It's time for our council meeting. This is the 43rd meeting of the 144th Council of the Corporation of City of St. Thomas. We're all here tonight. Councillor Wookie is online on Zoom with us, and so just yell out, Steve, if you've got anything that has to happen. Here's the flow of the meeting tonight. We have an open meeting. Shouldn't take very long at all. We then have a couple of closed meetings pieces. At which point we'll come back into open session and go into our special budget meeting following the closed session of tonight's meeting. So we'll start with the meeting, agenda meeting. And is there any disclosures of interest from any of the members? Seeing none, all those in favor? We don't have to vote on that one. That's fine. We'll go to minutes.
This one we do have to vote on, Your Worship. I have a motion that the minutes of the meeting held on December the 2nd, 2024 be confirmed. Moved by Councillor Peters, seconded by Councillor Clark.
Questions or comments on the minutes? Seeing none, all those in favor? Any opposed? Carried.
Council will now resolve itself into committee of the whole to deal with the following business. First item relates to the assumption of a road widening on Southdale Line. I have a motion that report PD 3824 relating to an assumption of a road widening along Southdale Line described as parts 3 and 4 on Plan 11R 9413 be received for information, and further the council authorize the preparation of a bylaw to assume parts 3 and 4 on the plan within the City of St. Thomas. Moved by Councillor Herbert, seconded by Councillor Gibson.
Questions or comments? Councillor Peters?
Thanks very much, Your Worship. When do we propose doing, I'm looking at the capital forecast, and is this, I'm trying to make sure that I'm reading which one on Southdale Line is proposed for either 2030 or 2031. I know we'd had some correspondence on this one in the past, and I'm just trying to get an idea how I'm reading this.
Anybody know?
Very last page in the budget, Kevin. That street construction forecast.
Okay, well, this is a land assumption.
No, I realize that, but I'm assuming that the land assumption is going to lead to a road widening on Southdale at some point. And I'm just curious when that work would proceed.
Well, I'm going to ask Mr. Dielebeck, but I don't know if he's the right one or not tonight. And if we don't, we can simply refer this one to next, but.
Sorry, Mr. Mayor, still tight back here.
Yeah.
Budget binders. So the question is when will Southdale Line be reconstructed or renewed in the future, Councillor Peters?
Yeah, I'm just curious whether this project, what we're assuming land is for 2030 or 2031.
You'll have to help me, sorry. Which side of Fairview Avenue is?
Well, I'm not.
Is it on the east side or the west side of Fairview Avenue?
I'm looking.
The difference would be a year between the two.
Okay. But still 2030, 31. Okay, thank you.
All right. Councillor Herbert?
Thank you, Worship. Is this, last week we had a bylaw that needed to be fixed from 1910. Here's another one that they've caught. Are we kind of tidying things up before the end of the year, or can we expect more? Because last week we had 1910. They found it. Now here they found another bylaw that needed to be sorted around.
Well, this is a 2024 bylaw. Mr. Pompili?
Okay, so it's just a,
If you're referring to the assumption, the report on the assumption of the road, yeah, that comes up from time to time. And when land transactions occur, lawyers doing their due diligence will discover that, you know, a certain part was not assumed properly, and we're just going back and cleaning up. So it does happen from time to time, unfortunately.
Okay. Further questions on the unknown assumption? Seeing none. All those in favor? Any opposed? Carried. Great. Next.
Next item relates to a residential grant for 200 Center Street under the Community Improvement Program. I have a motion that report PD 3524 relating to a Community Improvement Program residential grant for 20 Center Street be received for information, and further that council direct that a bylaw be prepared to enter into a Community Improvement Program residential grant agreement with 100057633 Ontario Incorporated relating to CIP application 2024-138. Moved by Councillor Gibson, seconded by Councillor McCauley.
Questions or comments? Seeing none. All those in favor? Any opposed? Carried.
Next item relates to draft plan approval for a plan of subdivision 34T 23501 in the Sandy Mount subdivision area. I have a motion that report PD 3624 relating to draft plan approval for file 34T 23501 be received for information, and further the council approve the draft plan of subdivision file 34T 23501 for lands owned by LaCram Inc., subject to conditions, including the requirement for the owner to enter into a subdivision agreement with the city with respect to the installation of municipal services and financial, environmental, administrative, and other matters relating to the development of the plan. Moved by Councillor Peters, seconded by Councillor Herbert.
Questions or comments? Seeing none. All those in favor? Any opposed? Carried.
Next item relates to draft plan approval for file 34T 23502, also Sandy Mount subdivision. I have a motion that report PD 3724 relating to draft plan approval file 34T 23502 be received for information, and further the council approve the draft plan of subdivision file 34T 23502 for lands owned by Land Rise Developments Inc. and Don West Construction Limited, subject to conditions, including the requirement for the owner to enter into a subdivision agreement with the city with respect to the installation of municipal services and financial, environmental, administrative, and other matters relating to the development of the plan. Moved by Councillor Gibson, seconded by Councillor Kohler.
Questions or comments? Councillor Peters.
Thanks, Your Worship. A few questions on this one. My first is, these two plans are bordering just because of a boundary. Are we going to see both developments happen simultaneously, or is one going to go before the other? Like, are we apt to see houses built on one developer's property and houses being built on another developer's property, or is one going to go before the other? I have a couple others.
Mr. Pompili, do we know the answer to that?
Through you, Your Worship. I'll attempt to answer any questions. We do have one of the owners here and representatives of the owners here. But my understanding that they will go together. They have to work together in terms of the services are coming from one end to the other. So they'll be serviced at the same time. So the assumption is that they'll be developed together as well. Just the phasing may work out differently as time goes, but they will be serviced all at once. The main servicing will happen all at once, and then from there, the phasing of development will happen amongst the two separate subdivisions.
Okay, thanks. Another question, Your Worship, and then I'll have one more. Will council be the ones that decide the street names? There'll be a number of streets in these two subdivisions. They're all just denoted by A's and B's right now. Will this be a council decision?
Through you, Your Worship, no, good question there. There's a process to go through. There's the list of street names that council has provided. So my understanding, we haven't gotten to that point yet of naming the streets. We'll be doing that as part of the subdivision agreement, which will be the next step. But there's a process in place, and the applicants will follow that process. And if there are new streets that are names brought forward, they'll come before council, but I haven't had any discussions with the applicants at this point regarding street names.
Thanks. And then specifically to this draft plan, I'm still really concerned about the intersection at Wellington Road. I stopped by this weekend. They're doing massive excavation in there to create the road access from the site to Wellington Road. If you stand at Wellington Road and you try to look towards the north, you're dealing with a hill and a curve. And the visibility looking northbound is extremely difficult. At what point do we, I'm assuming traffic studies have been done. I'm like Councillor Wookie, I am no engineer, but I have enough common sense to know that this is ripe for a major accident location, and we have to deal with the city plus 2 townships. Can we take a second look at this intersection?
Through the mayor to Councillor Peters, yes, traffic impact study was completed for this development, has been reviewed and is supported right now, that there is no need for any other further intersection improvements. As part of the draft plan conditions, we did include a provision that should the city want to have a review of this as the development unfolds, that we'll ask the developer to go and perform a subsequent traffic impact assessment at this location, you know, because maybe there might be increased density as the development occurs that may have changed some of the projections that were used initially in the traffic impact study. So for now, it's just a left turn lane at this point in time.
I'll go on the record of expressing my concern over this intersection. Thanks, Your Worship.
Thank you. Further questions or comments? Councillor Clark?
Just projecting 20 years down the road or 10 years or 15, what would the options be for remediation in terms of that intersection? Because the neighbors are complaining and worried about the increased traffic flow. So if it gets to point X, which it would then need changes, do we have any ideas what some of those options are? Is it just turning lanes or would it be a traffic light? People want to know.
Through the mayor to Councillor Clark, we don't have that answer until we complete those subsequent studies when we reach that trigger point. So I'd only be speculating at this point what that might be. It could be a signalized intersection. It could be additional turning lanes. I don't know what the preferred solution would be.
Further questions or comments? Seeing that, all those in favor? Any opposed? Carried.
Your Worship, one more item under this committee. Notice of decision has been received from the Committee of Adjustment to allow a new carport at 105 Sunset Drive within the open space and park zone. Unless there are any further items from the members for this committee?
Madam Clerk, if I could ask, this seems something new. We don't normally get the notice of decision from the Committee of Adjustment. Is that something that's been added for us now? I like it. I like hearing what they've done with the information before them.
Thank you, Your Worship. Yes, as a result of a report from the City Manager's Office recommending some changes so that council is aware of any decisions made from the Committee of Adjustment. As the members may recall, very few opportunities for appeal, and one of the groups, or in this case individuals, that are permitted to appeal are members of council. So if there are any concerns, this would be the time to raise them, as there's a limited time period in which to launch an appeal.
Great. Just love having the information before us now. Next item.
Next, we move into community engagement and services. Nothing on the agenda at this time unless there are any items from the members. Your Worship, seeing none. We'll now move into infrastructure and civic operations. No items on the agenda unless there are any items from the members.
I've got Councillor Peters and Councillor Baldwin-Sands.
Thanks very much, Worship. I sent an email in today to Kevin and to Dan Coppett about the Kane Street work that's just been completed. Street looks beautiful, except it feels like driving down a street that is 50 years old because there's not one manhole cover of this newly installed street that is flush to the ground. You drive down Kane Street right now and it's bump, 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 unless you're going to maneuver. So a citizen, a couple people have actually contacted me about this. I said I would raise it. I've sent the email. Staff, I guess, is going to take a look at this, but it just surprises me that a multi-million-dollar project and we still have potholes. Thanks.
I take it then they're going to get back to you on this? Okay, great. Councillor Baldwin Sands, you had an issue.
Yes, thank you. I was contacted over the weekend with the amount of snow that we had in regards to, and I forwarded the concern to customer service who provided the response, but I was hoping for a response for the general public as well from Mr. Liebig. In regards to where the buses have bus stops and a great amount of snow, and that bus stop just happens to be on private property, as to who is the responsible party for cleaning up to make sure that people who have access and to getting on and off a bus can do so safely.
Mr. Zillibeck?
Through the mayor to Councillor Baldwin Sands, I'd need to know the location that you're speaking of to understand what agreements we have with the private owner regarding snow removal for that. So if you wouldn't mind sharing that with me, I can look into it for you.
Okay. You can share it now or?
Sure. It was on the First Pro property, the supercenter. So where the buses meet there, the snow was not removed by the private owner of the property. So citizens were concerned about the safety of getting on and off the buses.
Okay. Anything else under this committee? Seeing none?
Next and final committee is Corporate Governance and Administration. Nothing on the agenda at this time unless there are any items from the members.
Seeing none?
Council will now reconvene into regular session. I have a motion that the recommendations, directions, and actions of council in committee of the whole as recorded in the minutes of this date be confirmed, ratified, and adopted. Moved by Councillor Clark, second by Councillor Herbert.
Questions or comments? Seeing none, all those in favor? Any opposed? That's carried.
No petitions and communications on the agenda at this time, unless there are any items from the members. We'll move into unfinished business of council. If there are no items, we'll now move into new business of council.
Councillor Baldwin Sands?
Thank you. At the Health Recruitment Partnership Committee this morning, we awarded 7 scholarships to current medical students, and we will provide information once the recipients have been informed, and we will be welcoming them for an event called Home for the Holidays, and that event is scheduled for Friday, December 27th. So I'll be able to provide further details in the upcoming future. Thank you.
Super. Great work. Anything else? Seeing none.
We'll now move into bylaws. I have a motion that leave be granted to bring in the bylaws. Moved by Councillor Peters, second by Councillor Herbert.
Questions or comments? Seeing none, all those in favor? Any opposed? That's carried.
I have a motion by Councillor Peters, second by Councillor Herbert, that the bylaws be now read a first time, referred to council and committee of the whole, and read a second time.
Questions or comments? Seeing none, all those in favor? Any opposed? Carried.
First bylaw, please.
First bylaw is a bylaw to confirm the proceedings of the council meeting held on December the 9th, 2024.
Questions or comments? Seeing none, all those in favor? That item carries. Second bylaw.
Second bylaw is a bylaw to assume certain lands as part of the public highway known as Highview Drive. That's parts 5 and 11 on Plan 11R 2370.
Questions or comments? Seeing none, all those in favor? It carries. Next item.
Third and final bylaw is a bylaw to authorize the mayor and clerk to sign an easement transfer. This relates to an easement for a concrete sidewalk and ramp with the property at 1010 Talbot Street.
Questions or comments? Seeing none, all those in favor? That item carries. I rise and report the successful passing of the 3 bylaws.
Thank you.
I have a motion by Councillor Peters, seconded by Councillor Herbert, that the report of council and committee of the whole on the 3 bylaws be received and adopted. The same be read a third time, engrossed, signed by the mayor and clerk, sealed and numbered.
Questions or comments? Seeing none, all those in favor? Any opposed? That's carried.
Next, we move into public notice. 2 items. The first one is that the City of St. Thomas is providing notice of its intention to adopt the 2025 operating budget and 2025 capital budget at its meeting to be held on Monday, January the 13th, 2025 at 5 p.m. And the second is that administration intends to introduce a bylaw to amend bylaw 188-2002, being a bylaw to impose fees or charges with respect to recreation service matters at the December 16th, 2024 council meeting. No notices of motion, Your Worship. If it's the member's wish at this time, we do have a need to move in to closed session. I have a motion that this meeting be closed to deal with information explicitly supplied in confidence to the municipality by the Government of Canada in 2 personal matters about identifiable individuals. Moved by Councillor Baldwin-Sands, seconded by Councillor Gibson.
Before I call the vote, I'll just remind all that are here and all that are watching at home and in our audience, we'll be very quick in closed session and be right back to open session to then go into our budgeting process. So all those in favor of closed session? Any opposed? Carried.
I have a motion that council rise from closed session. Moved by Councillor Baldwin-Sands, seconded by Councillor Gibson.
Questions or comments? Seeing none, all those in favor? Any opposed? Carried.
Our first item in open session, I have a motion that council appoint the following individuals: Mira Gravik to the St. Thomas Public Library Board, Vinaj Kurian to the Green Lane Landfill Public Liaison Committee, and Nicholas Nestico to the Municipal Heritage Committee for the remainder of the council term, subject to policy HR 2309 and the required accessibility training. Moved by Councillor Peters, second by Councillor Clark.
Questions or comments? Seeing none, all those in favor? Any opposed? Carried.
And we also have 1 bylaw to deal with. I have a motion that leave be granted to bring in the bylaw. Moved by Councillor Kohler, seconded by Councillor Clark.
Questions or comments? Seeing none, all those in favor? Any opposed? Carried.
I have a motion by Councillor Kohler, seconded by Councillor Clark, that the bylaw be now read a first time, referred to council and committee of the whole, and read a second time.
Questions or comments? Seeing none, all those in favor? Any opposed? Carried.
Next bylaw, please.
The 4th bylaw this evening is a bylaw to authorize mayor and clerk to execute and affix the seal of the corporation to a certain agreement between the city and Canada Mortgage and Housing Corporation relating to a funding agreement.
Questions or comments? Seeing none, all those in favor? Opposed? Carries. I rise and report the successful passing of the next bylaw.
I have a motion by Councillor Kohler, seconded by Councillor Clark, that the report of council and committee of the whole on the 1 bylaw be received and adopted. The same be read a third time, engrossed, signed by the mayor and clerk, sealed and numbered.
Questions and comments or comments? Seeing none, all those in favor? Any opposed? Carried.
Your worship, that concludes the items for open session. And at this time, I have a motion for adjournment. Moved by Councillor Gibson, seconded by Councillor McCauley.
Questions or comments? Seeing none, all those in favor? Any opposed? Carried.